And here we are off. Hello, my name is Brad Bodnerchuk, and welcome to the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast, where we discuss everything hospitality, from the food on the plate to the teams that make it happen and the community that drives this industry forward. On this podcast, we sit down and chat with some of the most exciting, inspiring, and innovative minds that make up one of the most dynamic industries that there is today. And today, I have the pleasure of being joined by none other than Vanessa Pollock. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, Brad. Thanks
I
for inviting me.
I never asked how to say your last name. I just went with it. Did I do okay?
You did great. It's Pollock.
Pollock. Perfect. Yeah.
Pollock. Yeah. Perfect.
I've said this now on just a handful of my last few podcasts that I'm working so hard to make sure I incorporate my guest's last name. Because my last name is challenging in itself. So I'm always very proud of people that try to pronounce it, and those that do pronounce it is awesome. But thank you so much for having an easy to pronounce last name, and thank you for making time for myself and the listeners. I truly appreciate you sharing your time. As I say with all of my guests, and I believe this to be true, the most valuable thing that you and I have is time. So thank you again for sharing yours today.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
So you are coming to us from the future. You are you are in Brisbane. I have yet to visit, but it's definitely on my list. It looks like a very beautiful place to live and to call home. A lot of people I know that have been and then have been to Vancouver. So there's a lot of similarities as well, different spots in Australia and Brisbane in particular. But let's just get right into it. I feel like this is the most appropriate, you're one of the most appropriate guests we've had, in that the name of this podcast is the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. And that is exactly what you do, is you, and feel free to interject here, is you are a hospitality coach. You are all about facilitating hospitality. So help me and listeners understand what it is that you do, and then how you got into this, how this business became to be.
Sure. So I've been in hospitality for quite some time, and in 2006, I decided to start my own business because I just wanted to help people who worked, the humans of hospitality. I wanted to help them to navigate what is a really tough industry, a really challenging industry. You need to be good at a lot of different things. And so that was an area that I thought I could make a difference in. And managing restaurants, I could only help the people that I was working with. And if I was to start my own business and offer training and development solutions to humans of hospitality, which is essentially what we do, then there was no limit to the amount of people that I could help. And if I was helping the people in the industry, then we were helping the industry as a whole. And those things were quite important to me. So yeah, look, that's what we've been doing since 2006. Essentially, we're helping people to navigate their careers, to make it a sustainable career for them and a sustainable career choice, preventing the burnout, giving them the tools they need and the resources that they need to do an amazing job and feel great about it.
So are you working with, I'm sure it varies job to job or client to client, but are you generally working with, say, a specific restaurant, like a one-off or a chain, and then you're working with management to facilitate that education, or are you working with the individual employees that make up the industry?
So our clients are restaurants or hospitality groups, cafes, hotels, bars, whatever. They're essentially our clients, and they engage us to, for instance, one of the things that we offer is an annual training program. So if Smoky Joe's Cafe decides to do an annual training program, that might look like one training session a month, either focusing on their leaders and their supervisors and their upcoming management team, or it might also focus on the staff and upselling and those sorts of things. And it just becomes then a regular program. We build a relationship with their team members, which is the part of our job that we all love the most. And obviously it helps the business move forward because their staff are nailing it. There's more engagement and there's more longevity in their roles as well. So essentially our clients are the business, and the business owners are our clients, but the teams are the ones that we spend the most of our time with, and building those teams and making sure that they've got, the right spreadsheets to help them, nail their jobs and get their KPIs and those sorts of things, and the right formatted shift plan to make sure every shift goes smoothly and that sort of thing. But having said that, one of the things that we do really love, so we always say when people come to our training sessions, once they're in the VPTD family, they're always in the VPTD family, and they can call us no matter, they can work for someone else, they can leave, they can go and work for somebody else. But we're always here, and they can always phone us and say, hey, we need to pick your brain about this or that. And in fact, we had a girl here yesterday who had done training with us 12 months ago with a different client. She was now with a different company. And she said, I've just been promoted, and, I really want to do well. I want to, be amazing at my job. And I was wondering if we could catch up. And it's like, of course, you're part of, that's why we do what we do. So, we work closely with the team and the people that make up this industry.
That's so cool. It's so cool that you're able to impact so many people. Like you were saying before, the hat you were wearing as a manager of a four-wall brick and mortar spot, you can only impact so many people. So yeah, what a great idea. Is there, or not is there, I'm sure there is, but what does it look like, and what challenges do you have when you are looking to bring on new clients, or pitching, if you will, yourself? Because in this industry, and I don't think it's unique to us in this space, but perhaps it is, there can be a lot of ego in this industry, both front of house and back of house, and then restaurateur as well. So how do you position yourself to do something that, quote unquote, someone else could do? You can go ahead and you can grab whoever you're grabbing there off.
I'm just asking Sarah to switch that on down there. Thank you. There's a big sign just came up on my computer, battery running low.
Oh, no, you don't want that.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Okay, cool.
Really, really good question. And there is a lot of ego in the industry. And if I've learned anything from a business perspective, doing what I do, is that if people at the top, if someone wants me to come in and help them to, develop their business by developing their people, often the problem is them, and we don't work with those people. So I have learned that if you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So if they are, if they're willing to make changes, if they're, they can see that they are part of the problem and then part of the solution as well, they're the clients that you really want. And I'm so fortunate with the clients that we have. They are so dedicated to their teams, and they really want to invest in their teams, and they're just genuinely good people. I mean, one of my clients, the two owners of that business, over Christmas, they opened up their coffee shop on Christmas Day, just the two owners, and all of the proceeds that they made went to charity on Christmas Day. That's two directors of a business. Like, they're inspiring people, right? They're inspiring for their staff. They're inspiring for me. So we've got amazing clients. I've kind of learned not to chase clients, and we haven't, to be fair. We've done very, very little marketing. We're on social media, and, we connect with people in that way. But mostly it has been word of mouth. And, occasionally, people will call, will just, at the end of the day, Brad, I want to help people in this industry to succeed, whether you're a restaurant owner, whether you're a manager, whether you're a barista, whether you're a kitchen hand who wants to be a chef. I want to help people to succeed. So if someone contacts me and says, how can you help me? I'll tell them how I can help them. And if they decide to go ahead with that, then that's great. But, I will also be quite frank about what needs to happen and the changes that perhaps need to be made. So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does definitely articulate it very well. Do you feel like the Vanessa now, after, let me do some quick math here, 12 years of being in business, you think she would answer that question the same way in 2006, or is the Vanessa in 2006 all about just give me my first client. Let's just do this. I don't care what the ego is or what the attitude is. Pardon me. I just need that client now.
Yeah. Yep. Look, definitely. I think, I think back then, gosh, I've just learned so much.
That's a good thing.
I've learned so much. I guess with any business, I think when you start up, there is a certain element of I will take the business that is there, and I say yes to a lot of things, and I guess I say no to a lot more now, and I'm grateful for perhaps for those early days, and I'm grateful for learning those processes, and I'm grateful for the clients that perhaps things didn't really work out that well with, because I know then what I wanted. And the business that I have now is much more the business that I want, dealing with the clients that I want, and the teams that are amazing. It's much more so that now than it was 12 years ago, for sure.
Yeah, listening to you answer that question reminds me of a quote by a guy named Jesse Itzler. Look him up. He's incredible. Jesse Itzler, very successful entrepreneur in his own right. And he's also married to the lady, I forget her name, that is the CEO of Spanx.
Right.
Spanx. Anyway, so very powerful couple. But one thing he said, and I thought it was so poignant, was he's at a point in his career and in his life where he's done laughing at jokes that aren't funny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Whereas
I know exactly what you mean.
when you're in a room, you're trying to close someone and they say something that really isn't funny, but you'll laugh anyway because you want to,
Yep.
I just find it's such a powerful place to be in, to be able to know that your clients are the clients that you want and the ones that you want to be working with. I think that's so powerful. And I think anyone that's starting out in this space, especially the consultancy side of thing, if you can hang on to that even when you're starting, it might really serve you very, very well.
Look, I think it does. And I think it bodes well. People know. So we recruit as well, mostly for the people that we do training for. So if someone comes to us just who we don't know and says, will you recruit for us? It's unlikely that we will take that on. But if we are doing training with someone and we know that they're going to invest in their staff and they see them as a valuable asset, and we invest in their personal development, then we're more than happy to recruit for them. So we do a little bit of recruiting. But when we recruit, we get really good applicants because our reputation is that we work for preferred employers. We work for people who will look after you. We work for people who are not going to, expect blood, sweat and tears from you and give you nothing back. We work for people who are going to respect you and look after you. So it bodes well for you to choose who you work with, because that has a profound effect, really.
I'm really intrigued for you to, as best you can, help myself, because again, like I said, I haven't been there, which kind of embarrasses me. I really do need to travel to that part of the world. But help myself and listeners that haven't been in your neck of the woods understand what it looks like. What is the landscape right now in hospitality? Because it is vastly different here in Vancouver and in Canada as a whole than it was 10 years ago. But we are still, I feel like, still behind on a lot of things. So I would love just, again, very overarching question, overarching theme. Like what does hospitality look like right now? What is the industry? What is trending? What's hot? What is Australia? What is Brisbane known for at the moment?
Yeah, gosh, good question. So I have a friend, Charlie Gibb, who's got a community for women in hospitality. She's in Melbourne, and she would answer these questions so much better than I would.
Can you get her on the phone?
Friend function, I would be down with that. She is on top of what's hip and cool and trendy. So look. Brisbane, so I'm in Brisbane in Queensland, is vastly different to Sydney and Melbourne. Sydney and Melbourne, I think Melbourne in particular, sorry Sydney people, is very hospitality orientated. I mean, it always has been, and they're probably the pinnacle. They, I guess, set the benchmark. What's happening in Brisbane at the moment, I think, is that a lot of operators from Sydney and Melbourne are opening venues in Brisbane. So Brisbane is the sunny smaller city, a smaller sister, I guess, to those other states. And so people who have operated very successfully in Sydney and Melbourne are slowly starting to open restaurants up here, which is great. It's moving Brisbane along quite fast, and we've got, as a city, we've got a lot of really cool restaurants opening up. Modern Asian is very, very funky, and lots of great places happening at the moment. Little small, little tiny cocktail bars, and the trend is definitely towards casual dining and not fast food, not even quick service, but just casual dining. We don't, in Brisbane, I think we have maybe 3 fine dining restaurants. I don't know how many in Vancouver. Has Vancouver got a lot?
Maybe. I mean, there's some that may call themselves fine dining, but I would say like legitimately there's probably 2, and one of them is actually outside of the city limits. So really just one downtown.
Yeah. And, probably maybe even 8 years ago, there probably would have been 5 or 6 fine dining restaurants in Brisbane. So it's getting less, and it's moving towards, those more smart, casual dining places. We're finding that some restaurants are opening in city, in heritage listed buildings. So there's that bit of character behind them, and beautiful fit outs. One of my sore points is the amount of money that people spend on fit outs and neglect to spend on the training of their staff before they open the doors. So, we have some gorgeous restaurants that are opening, and then the service just is not really where it should be. And it's not anyone's fault, except for the fact that so much money has been invested in the fit out, and they've just forgotten, I actually need to train my staff as well. So
yeah, it's interesting you say that. I'm working on a webinar that I'm going to be hosting, and part of it I'm kind of using the Wright brothers as an analogy with how I feel restaurants are run. And the Wright brothers, I don't know if you know, it's the Wright brothers were the ones that first flew a plane.
Yeah.
So while everyone was trying to perfect an engine, the Wright brothers made a plane that would fly without an engine. So something that would glide without an engine. And then they just took the engine that worked and put it into their design.
Right.
So that's kind of how I'm positioning myself with my business. Is I really go after culture. Like, culture for me is such an important thing, both for your brand, but also your people as well. And then how do you impact that on the daily? So it's interesting to talk about the fit out and people spending an obscene amount of money. And don't get me wrong, like, I love beautiful things. I love beautiful restaurants.
Yeah.
But it's not truly going to make me come back or not if the service or the culture is lacking. So I'm just reminded of, like I said, that Wright brother analogy where they went the exact opposite way of what everyone else was doing. When everyone else was investing in figuring out engines, they did that. How can I make a plane that flies first without an engine, and then I'll just throw an engine in it, which is, it's so ingenious.
Yeah, I like that.
So yeah, feel free to use that one if you want.
That's a good analogy. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned not so much QSR, because QSR is becoming very, very prevalent here and very successful. And what we're seeing is, I talk about it a lot on the show with a lot of my guests, especially my restaurateur guests, is they're driven to go down that path because the margins that they have at the end of the year, the profit margins are sometimes double or maybe even triple, if they play their cards right, what it would be in their traditional brick and mortar restaurant. But for me, what you're lacking in those QSRs, part of me, is like traditional, what I want to experience as far as hospitality. It just doesn't exist, right? So I'm wondering, do you feel like QSRs either aren't prevalent or haven't caught on? Maybe they've been a flash in the pan, but is it because of a certain level of standard that you and your fellow countrymates have as far as hospitality, or the kind of technique or that model just hasn't worked?
No, we do have a lot of quick service restaurants.
Oh, okay.
And we have some great companies doing it, offering great service. There's a company, not a client, disclosure, a company called Grilled, which is a burger joint. But, their service is good. Their training is good. The consistency is good. And, it comes down to the people you know, that they employ as well. And, you know, there are a lot of stores, so some might be hit and miss, but essentially it's good. One of our clients we do work with is also would probably be classed as a quick service restaurant, which is Couch Cocktail and Dessert Bar. So it's counter service. They specialise in cocktails and you know, totally over the top, amazing desserts. And, you know, their whole thing is about creating experiences for people. So although you might not have 2 hours at the table with those customers, you've still got, you know, you've got the entry point, you've got when they walk in the door, you've got when they come to the counter, you've got offering them tastes of different ice creams. You know, it just because it's quick service doesn't have to be no service. We actually put that in our handbook. Counter service does not mean no service.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I actually just wrote a blog not too long ago about adopting the Walmart model. And the Walmart model for me is when you walk into a Walmart, I'm not sure what it's like in where you're from, but here when you walk into a Walmart.
Don't have Walmart.
You don't have Walmart? Oh,
we don't have Walmart, no, but I
yes.
know of Walmart because I watch movies.
Okay, there you go. When you walk into, pardon my ignorance, when you walk into a Walmart, there's someone there greeting you right away.
Yeah. Yep.
So I've been preaching to the masses here that own QSRs, like maybe adopt a system where as soon as someone walks in, it's like, hey, how are you? Welcome. Is it your first time here? If so, this is what we're all about. You can order over here. If you like chicken, like you should try this. It's amazing today. I feel like in most QSRs, that's what's lacking here is they're missing out on that opportunity to make that impression and have that opportunity to impact your brand and those people. But it's nice to hear that there's people like Grilled and what was the other one? Sorry?
Couch Cocktail and Dessert Bar.
Yeah, that they are able to facilitate that. That's fantastic. Let's talk challenges. Let's talk what you feel like in your line of work, what you're coming up against that are consistent challenges in the industry, not necessarily in your business and getting clients, but what are you hearing from your clients that are big challenges right now? Like for us, it's cost of food. It's obviously staffing, cost of running a business. Yeah, staffing.
100%. It is every single hospitality operator's biggest pain point is, and it's not the staff, it's finding the staff. Our human resources pool, and this is part of the reason that we do what we do, but the human resources pool in hospitality I'm going to talk about Brisbane, but I dare say Australia it's just dwindling. You know, there's not the amount of chefs that we need. There's not the amount of people who see hospitality as a career. You know, if you have a uni student working for you, that's fine. But if you have all of your staff as uni students, you're not going to be giving the service that you need. So staffing it's hard. It's, you know, and as I said, we recruit. It's hard to find good staff. And I think what that causes then is that business owners think they need to settle, and so they settle, and then that causes all sorts of other issues, and it can then become a toxic environment, and then. And you know, if you don't have the people, you're not going to get the numbers. So yes, cost of goods is another pain point, but you've got to get the staff right first, because they're the ones that are going to deliver your cost of goods. If they care, you're going to have a decent profit, and if they don't care, then, you know, there'll be wastage everywhere, and people won't be, you know, following what they should be doing. So staffing is very challenging, but we need to, this is why we train, you know, it's like planting seeds. If you don't plant the seeds, you can't expect to harvest. Suddenly, we're not going to turn around and go, oh, there's all these experienced hospitality people. They're not going to magically fall from the sky. We need to nurture them. We need to bring them up. We need to have apprentice chefs on our teams. Not many people have apprentice chefs here. What is it like in Vancouver?
It's sad, because I'm really hoping in these conversations that I have with people that are across the globe that I'm going to hit something that's different. And I was hoping, Vanessa, you were going to say, you know what works, Brad? This is but it is a challenge for us as well. There isn't, although, you know what, I do feel like the rise in food in media, meaning you see it all over YouTube now. There's YouTube channels that are like, there's the people are putting a lot of money behind food programs. Netflix is attracting more and more of a foodie crowd, if you will. So I feel like that will impact and will hit the industry soon. Where you'll have people more intrigued to go and be chefs, or maybe go and be restaurateurs, which is great. But we still need people to wash dishes and peel potatoes and pick up dirty plates and all those things.
But we need to look after those people. That's
100%.
the end. Like, that is the simple answer. We make the industry more attractive, and then we'll attract more people. Like, it's not rocket science.
Yeah, it is literally the law of attraction.
Yeah,
that is a real law that I'm learning more and more about as I go through my life. You get what you are, and you get what you attract. And it's a challenge here as well. The staffing thing is the biggest issue that I have dealing with my clients, help facilitate growth for them. It's interesting. I just wonder, is there a platform beyond you and I sitting on this call right now where we can put our heads together, like almost like a symposium, if you will? And food is sexy, food's easy to talk about, it's fun, it's tasty, all those things. But what are we actually doing to move this industry forward globally? And I think what you're doing with your company, from what you've told me and what I know of it, is a step in the right direction, and really investing in people, because without them, this industry will not exist.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I think there'd be a lot of people interested in talking on that subject. And I think things are changing, and I think it will be a very different landscape in 5 and certainly 10 years' time. And I think it's because of this generation coming through, which is great. And everyone bags this generation coming through. But I think they're awesome, and they're the ones that are changing this. They're the ones that are saying, you know what, I'm going to get a job in hospitality, but if you're going to shout at me and you're going to, treat me like I don't mean anything, and you're not going to invest in my training, and you're going to make me work really late at night, and you're not even going to say thank you at the end of the shift, no thanks, I'll work somewhere else. Good. That's a good thing for us to learn. It's a good thing for us to learn. So I hope people are learning that from this generation.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it here, and I'm assuming we're seeing it in your neck of the woods as well, is people are more aware of they have to grow up a little bit, and that old chef that shouts and throws plates, that just there's no place for that anymore. No. There's far too many options for people to go and start and have a job somewhere else. I think the really cool thing about the hospitality industry, the thing that I loved about it when I was growing up and working front of house mostly, and a little bit of back of house, was just the flexibility of it. That I could go to the beach all morning in the summer and then go and work my 6 or 8 hours at night, and it allowed for a really cool lifestyle. And I look at a lot of the budding entrepreneurs that are out there right now, young entrepreneurs. You can really facilitate growing your side hustle while being a server or a waiter or a prep chef or something like that. So I think it's just, again, it's conversations like this, and it's really helping educate people how they can navigate this industry and how it can work for them. I think that's how we kind of bridge that gap and start to attract some top talent. I wanted, sorry, did you have a final thought on that?
No, that's fine.
I was going to ask, I don't know why, this could be a story I made up in my head, but I had thought that things and I don't want to paint all of Australia with a brush, but I will, pardon my ignorance. But I had thought things in Australia were really good in this industry. I thought there was a gap that had been bridged in regards to the general public being educated on what it costs to put a plate of food together. So the industry is able to charge more, which means the restaurant owner makes a little bit more margin, which means he can pay his or her staff more. So it's begun a more healthy process. Is that the reality, or am I just making things up?
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think that probably, 10, 15 years ago, if you opened a restaurant in a busy precinct, you would make money. And what I like about the industry now is if you open a restaurant in a busy precinct and you're crap, you're not going to make money. So the people who are doing, really good things, are reaping the success that they deserve. And that, so yes, it's not a story. You didn't make it up. I think that is the case.
Do you feel like, say, friends of yours that aren't in the industry, they don't really know what goes on outside of just their favorite restaurant that they go to? Are they now more educated than they were 5-10 years ago about what it takes to run a restaurant, about what it takes to produce a plate of food, or are they still of the same mindset that they were 5-10 years ago?
All of my friends would appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone in Australia would appreciate that. Look, people are different. Look, what we do in the restaurant industry is we make things look easy, because who wants to go to that restaurant where everyone's running around going, oh my God, this is so hard, everything's crazy, the chef's yelling at me, that it's really difficult. Nobody wants to go to that restaurant. So as a guest, when you go to a restaurant, you just see people smiling, serving great food, having fun, and you go, how hard can this be, you know? So it's because of people who work in hospitality who are good at what they do, that there's this perception that it's a hell of a lot easier than it is, and it's not. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's the most fun, rewarding industry that there is. I'm just going to put that right out there. But you need to be good at a lot of different things, and that's part of the reason that I love it, and part of the reason that I think it's so enjoyable is because you're not just doing the same thing day in, day out. There are loads of variables. If you're a chef, you're not just dealing with food. If you're a head chef, you're a leader as well. You've got to look after your staff. You've got to have a good sense of accounting. You've got to have, be a little bit tech savvy. You need to be a counsellor half the time. So, things are different within your job, and that's what makes it so great. But to people who don't intimately know the industry, I'm sure that, well, I know for a fact that they think it's a hell of a lot easier than it is until they've actually done it.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone should work a shift, I think, in either a restaurant
100%.
or a cafe, whether it's Starbucks
100%.
or an independent. You should just go and do it and burn yourself, cut yourself, and get an appreciation.
100%.
My big paradigm shift that I think is coming for us here in North America is, for a while now, we've been holding chefs very, very high, and they're kind of the sexy rock stars of the industry. And for a lot of them, they deserve that because of what they create and what they do and the hours they work, etc. But I really feel like the next rock stars in this space are going to be farmers. We're seeing more and more attention being paid to what people are doing when it comes to farming. Here locally, we're gifted with an amazing abundance of incredible products here in BC. 12 months of the year, which is really, really incredible. So our chefs and us as consumers are really spoiled. We don't lack any choices. I'm wondering, what is it like in Australia? Is there a big appreciation, a celebration for the people that actually produce the food? And what does that look like?
Oh, there absolutely is, and there are some great people working with farmers. There's a group called Food Connect who've just managed to crowdfund to get their own warehouse. They've been operating for a while, but there are people like them who are almost cutting out the middleman and dealing with between restaurants and farmers, and making sure that because our farmers are doing it really tough. I don't know if you know that over there, but there are droughts, there are floods, drought mainly, but that they are doing it very, very tough. And there's a big push to support local producers, whether they're farmers or small producers. Our office is located in South Brisbane, just a tiny bit, pretty much in the city, but just south of it. And there's someone with a mushroom, doing a mushroom farm, and they concentrate on urban mushroom farms. There's some really great stuff happening. There's Rooftop Honey, a guy called Jack, who has a company called B1/3, and the rooftops around Brisbane have got beehives on top of them. So there's I think restaurants are real, and chefs are really wanting to support those guys and get local produce wherever they possibly can. And there's an abundance of it. We're fortunate too in that respect, right?
That's amazing. So glad to hear that. Are you familiar with restaurateur Danny Meyer? Danny Meyer is
love.
Yeah. So big fan of his, and all of his team. What they do, are actually heading to New York in April and hoping to check out some of his spots, which would be amazing.
Yeah, great.
But in his book, Setting the Table, he talks about kind of discerning the difference between service and hospitality, and what is service and what is hospitality. I'm going to put you on the spot. I think you can handle it. How do you define hospitality yourself?
For me, hospitality, well, I believe that hospitality is about it's creating remarkable experiences. It's not about the food, it's not about the service, it's about the whole experience, and making that special. And when you think of the word hospitality, I mean, if someone was to walk into your home, Brad, the first thing you would do is greet them. You wouldn't wait 15 minutes to greet them. You would greet them the minute they walked in the door. You would probably say, do you want a beer? You'd offer them a drink straight away. You wouldn't let them sit down and get settled. You'd probably do it straight away, right? So, that's hospitality, and it's no different. You're in a restaurant. And I think if we can make our staff feel some sort of ownership for the venue that they're in, then they will understand that this person's coming into your venue. You've got to be hospitable. It's up to you to make sure that they have this amazing experience, and the team combined works on that. So hospitality is creating a remarkable experience. That's what I think it is.
I like that. Very well put. So when you walk into a new restaurant, and you literally, your foot has just hit the floor, and your eyes are up, what are you looking for? What do you, as someone that's been in the industry for quite some time, you've had your own business in the space for the last 12 years. This is kind of what you do, is you curate these to be the most hospitable spaces they can be. So what are you looking for when you walk in as a consumer?
Yeah, good question. And an interesting one. I would look to greet it straight away. I would look for someone to see me. And that doesn't mean that they greet me and they're in my face and they're trying to sell me something. It means that they acknowledge me. And if they are busy, it might be the old nod. If they are not busy, they might walk towards me and welcome me. That's what I look for straight away. And having said that, I also appreciate that people are different. So, funny story.
I like funny.
I met my sister for coffee in a cafe out of town, almost country town, at this particular venue. And I loved going to this cafe because as soon as I walked in, I'm like, hi, how are you? Really perky. And my sister is apparently the polar opposite. And she said, I hate going there because as soon as I walk in, I'm like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, I haven't had my coffee yet. How do you think I am?
Right. Yeah, that's fair.
So, but it's reading the guest too, and it's finding that balance. But I think that being overly enthusiastic is probably better than being under enthusiastic.
Yeah, what's the saying? You attract more bees with honey than you do with shit. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So look, for me, that's what I think is a winner. When people greet you straight away, I look for the venue to be clean. I look for the staff to be well presented. I look for, what people don't want. People don't want to look like idiots. They're scared of that. So if they're walking into a venue, straight away they're vulnerable, and the human instinct, I think, is, am I going to do the wrong thing? Am I going to walk to the wrong place? There's no sign. Do I enter here? Do I order there? What do I do? Bad first impression. So I think if someone is greeting you straight away, you're alleviating that altogether.
Yeah, that brings in my Walmart pitch.
Yeah.
Just bring in someone like Walmart.
I'm behind it.
Yeah.
I'm with that movement.
Yeah. As soon as they walk in, someone like a greeter. What I called it was like the maitre d' of the QSR industry. It can be very approachable. Doesn't have to be stuffy.
No.
And that's something I think has changed a lot as well. And a friend of mine said this a few months ago, and I thought it was so articulate and kind of tongue in cheek. is he said he feels like the industry has changed so much where 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, people would come to your table and say, hello, my name is Brad. I'll be your server tonight. Whereas I think you said it so well. It's like coming into my home. I would never say, hello, I'm Brad. I'll be your homeowner tonight. Like,
Yeah.
it's awkward. It's just like, hey, welcome. So glad you guys are here. I look forward to spending the next 90 minutes, 2 hours with you. Let me grab you some drinks and I'll be right back. Like, just
awesome.
That dance looks a little different now than it used to. I think it was more like robotic before. I think what we were saying earlier in the conversation was watching some of those fine dining restaurants, not necessarily die out, but just kind of they look different now and they feel different now and they taste different now. And I think they're just adapting to what the consumer wants, which I think is a better thing. If you want white tablecloth, you can find it. But it doesn't have to be stuffy anymore, which I think is great.
No, that's right. We, gosh, talking about 10 years ago now, but we did go to New York and we went to Per Se. It was someone's birthday and it was a big deal and we spent a fortune and it was so awesome. But the guy who served us, damn, he was good. He was so not stuffy. And, you were in this environment where you had to wear jackets and it was crisp white tablecloths and it was, beautiful. But you don't have to be stuffy to give good service, to give immaculate service. It doesn't have to be forced. It doesn't have to be stuffy. You can still be you. And I think that is whether you're top level fine dining or whether you're a quick service restaurant, like it's just got to be genuine and welcoming,
Yeah, I think that word you just said, genuine, is like if I could share anything with anyone out there in the industry right now, if you own a space, if you can impact or impart your staff to have empathy and be genuine, like you will be leaps and bounds ahead of most of your competitors. So genuine, great.
I love that. And Brad, I think what you've just said is so accurate because I think when people think of restaurant training, they think of, okay, we'll teach them how to carry 3 plates. What are vermentinos like? What goes into this dish? They don't think of things like empathy and relationship management and those soft skills or emotional intelligence skills that are what it's a human industry. You need those things. You want people to be good. It's not even teaching them about how to be a waiter. It's teaching them to be a good human. Recognize that person's uncomfortable sitting there. Recognize that this couple's not having a very good time. Recognize those sorts of things. So I think that those soft skills are under recognized as being super important. Yeah,
and I think what you said earlier as well, like people have chosen your business to come in and have lunch or dinner or breakfast. So be aware of that as well. And you and I can probably cook pretty well on our own at home. We're not going out necessarily for the food. We're going out.
Big call, Brad.
I assumed. Well, I'll cook for you someday then.
Okay.
But so I can cook for you at home pretty well. What I'm going out for is to be taken care of. When I go out to a restaurant, it's cool that they have great food. It's cool that the spot down the street has amazing pizza, and I don't really want to make pizza tonight. But what I'm going there for is for me to sit down in your space and for you to whirl me around. And what I say to a lot of my clients is I want your consumer to leave here, whether or not they've experienced acid before, I want them to feel like it was an acid trip. They don't know what happened, but it was super fun. It was one of the most memorable things they have ever been a part of, and they cannot wait to tell all of their friends about their amazing acid trip at blank restaurant. That to me is like when I walk into a space, it's all about like the temperature, the music. Music for me is like huge. The vibe has to be right. But to your point as well, you have to be greeted in an appropriate amount of time and made to feel welcome and made to feel comfortable. And not feel like you're an imposter, especially in a new space. Like you said, that can be very intimidating, especially if it's a busy room on a Friday night. You don't want to be that guy or that girl that walks the wrong place. And, so I think it was really interesting that you mentioned that. But yeah, I like to use the acid trip as kind of the be all and end all. I've never done acid, but I'm assuming it's a pretty cool thing to experience. This show, Vanessa, is called the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. So I have for you 2 questions. that I ask every single guest, and this is kind of letting us know that we're getting close to the end because we're at 45 minutes. Thank you so much for your time. You've been incredible. I feel like we could chat for 3 hours.
We could.
So the 2 questions I have for you are these. The first one is the half a dozen have-tos. Stay with me here. So I need you 1 to 6, so 1 to half a dozen of things you've experienced in your life that you feel like others, being our listeners, have to experience, food related or not. It can be a trip you've taken, a concert you've been to, a book you've read, a piece of art you've stared at, a meditation practice you follow, anything, just to give us a better idea of who you are and what you do. So what would be 1 to 6? You can do 1 or you can go all the way to 6 of your have-tos.
Okay. Because it's fresh in my mind, if anyone who works in hospitality is thinking of opening a restaurant, is ever thinking of doing anything in hospitality. So I don't know if you've got it there or what, but Netflix has done a series called 7 Days Out.
Okay, yeah, I feel so like geeky saying this. We don't have a TV, we don't have Netflix, but I've heard of this.
Well, I kind of love that. That's really cool, but you need to watch this series. So they've done a series called 7 Days Out, and 11 Madison Park was in episode, I think it was episode 2 or 3, maybe episode 2, but it showed the lead up to their relaunch, 7 Days Out. If you work in hospitality, you just need to see it. If you've opened restaurants before, you need to see it.
Yeah, that's on our list. That's on our list for New York in the spring is 11 Madison Park. Fingers crossed.
Fantastic. Haven't been there, would love to be there. Danny Meyer has a few little guest appearances in that episode as well. Cool. So that's my number 1 because it's recent, and I appreciate that. Danny Meyer's book, Setting the Table.
Setting the Table, yeah.
Setting the Table.
Yeah.
I haven't read it in a while, but I've read it a number of times, and everyone in hospitality should read it. Sarah's reading it at the moment. So Brad, we talk about mindful hospitality, and I want people in hospitality to start practicing mindful hospitality, and that means scheduling time for themselves. It means, we've worked in this industry that is work hard, play hard, and that's all been very cool, but they need to look after themselves as well. Otherwise, we're not going to have anyone left in this industry. You get burnt out. So I would like people who work in the industry to take care of themselves, to maybe go for a hike instead of going to the pub one day off, just one day off. They don't have to, change their lives, just one day off. Right. Maybe breathe a bit more, maybe try meditation. So mindful hospitality would be something. What else?
Those are good ones. Put you on the spot.
Listen to podcasts.
Do you have a podcast you want to plug right now?
Your podcast is great for people in hospitality and in the industry. One I really like is Coaching for Leaders, which is got some really great leadership type of tips and interviews. So I listen to that regularly. They're probably the top 2. Tim Ferriss.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss.
Good one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
Is that enough things? I'm sure there's so many more.
You know what's going to happen is you're going to email me tomorrow and say, "Oh, I wish I would have said this." That happens all the time. The last question I have for you, Vanessa, is the half a dozen haven't yet. So kind of like a bucket list. Give myself and listeners, again, it doesn't have to be related to the industry. It can be completely as personal as you want it to be or not. It can be totally impersonal. But 1 to 6 of your bucket list, your haven't yet.
Gosh. 11 Madison Park, you get to do that one. You'll do it before me. That's definitely there.
Crossed, yeah.
Gosh, that's a really good question.
Is it not something you think of often?
Oh, look, I guess I think really quite, like we've set our goals and intentions for 2019, which is just like really in my head at the moment. I can't think beyond.
That's okay.
On this year, but we've got lots of things that we've kind of committed to for this year. We started going to the gym yesterday. When I say we, that's Sarah, my colleague, and myself.
Nice.
So that's one of the things that we're ticking off our list. 3 times a week, going to the gym.
Nice.
But yeah, like I guess big things. Travel more experiences, less things.
Is there any opportunity or any intrigue to ever make your way to the west coast of Canada?
100%.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we
Yeah,
have
no, definitely.
we have so many Aussies here. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have Dave there, so I have to come and see Dave.
Shout out to Dave. Dave linked us up, and I feel so honored that he did. And I really appreciate you coming on today. Do you have any other heaven? Yes, it can be simple as like you haven't had a burger at X, or you haven't had this drink at Y.
No, because if I want a burger at X, I go get it.
Okay, cool.
It becomes top of my list.
Yeah.
No, I honestly, there's no big things.
That's good. Hey, you know what? I think that says a lot about you in a good way. I think it says a lot about you being content, not satisfied, not settled, but content. I think that is a rare thing nowadays. And so many of us jump on this question, like, oh my God, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, I haven't done that. Whereas people like yourself, I'll lump you into this crowd, have just been like, I don't have that much. That to me is, it just says a lot, and it says that you have a lot going on in your life that is keeping you occupied, and you're not needing to think about things that you haven't done yet because you have so much good going on.
And at 2:00 in the morning, I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh my God, there's so many things.
Exactly. The very last question I had for you, so I lied, I have one more for you. I'm just intrigued in speaking with entrepreneurs like yourself in this space that are doing things a little bit different. You're not opening up a restaurant or a cafe, you're working on the periphery, but we're still very much involved in the industry. Since I have a 7-month-old daughter, I've been hyper aware of growth and watching her as she's now just looking at things differently and experiencing the world differently. So where is your business in regards to growth? Are you still crawling? Do you have teeth yet? Are you walking? Are you a toddler? Are you a teenager? Where is your business over the past 12 years? Where have you come to be now today?
Oh, look, when I started my business, I really started a job. In 2006, I didn't say I'm going to build a business. I thought, I want to help these people. How can I do that? This is my job. And so it's probably, although we have been around for a while, I still feel like there is so much, so far to go, so much more we can do, so many more people that we can help, and so many more people that I want to work with. So although we have been around for over 10 years, I still feel like we're very young, and we are constantly growing, but there's so much. I just want to do everything.
Yeah, you and me both. But I appreciate that. I feel like there's a natural level of like humble nature that speaks to when you answer that question. So and we're always learning. We're always really babies, to be honest. We'll never know everything, which is so cool as well. I want to take a moment to say thank you again for coming on to the podcast today. I'm super intrigued by what you do and how you do it. And if you're okay with it, I'm going to keep in touch with you because I feel like we can help each other. And I would love to use you as a sounding board for certain projects and things. And I'd be more than happy to be that for you. And you may not know it, but doing what you do in the south of Brisbane, you inspire people to go after it, and you inspire me all the way here in Vancouver, BC. So thank you so much for doing what you do and flying the flag and making this industry look and feel different and better. So kudos to you and Sarah, who's off screen.
And Sarah, that's you.
Shout out Sarah for facilitating that change for you guys locally. And I don't know what it's going to look like. But something big is going to happen in this industry globally, and I feel like there's a lot of positive things that will come from it. And I feel like people like you are the ones that are going to facilitate that. So again, kudos to what you're doing. Myself and listeners will be more than happy to support anything you do here on out. So thank you again for doing what you do, and thank you for coming onto the show. Thank you, Brad, and thanks for your podcast. It's great, and yeah, I'll be telling lots of people to have a listen. You've got some really interesting people that you've spoken to, and it's good to be part of that hospitality community. Yeah, it's amazing. I've been gifted with meeting some fantastic people, and really all I'm trying to do is provide a platform for people like you to come on and tell your story, and I think there's so much power in that. And so often, like you said, people experience this industry and it looks so easy and it feels so easy, but let's have the real conversations and let's really understand what goes into this industry as a whole, because from planting a seed at a farm to making it taste good on a plate to making sure it hits your table warm, there's a lot of things that go in between just the food side of things and then the service side of things. It's so dynamic. And I say that in the opening, I truly feel it is the most dynamic industry in the entire world. And it's an industry that involves all of us. We all need to eat. It's a human right. So, okay, that's it.
Thanks,
You did
Brad.
amazing. I am Brad. That is Vanessa. Thank you guys so much for tuning in as you do week after week. Be sure to tune in next week for a brand new episode. And until then, guys, you know what to do. Be good and do good. That's it. We did it.
Thanks, Brad.
Well done.
Thank you.
You want to say a quick hello to Lena?
Yes. Is she there?
Yeah. Linz, can you bring her out? They've been cooped up in her little tiny room, which is awesome.
I didn't hear a peep.
Yeah, we didn't hear a thing.
I didn't hear anything.
Hi. This is
hello, Lena.
and this is Lindsay, who's off screen.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you? Oh, look at her. She's so cute.
Say hi. This is
hello, sweetheart.
One in
Can
Australia.
you say me hello? Hello, little one. Oh, she's very well made. Good job, you two.
Very well made. Luckily, I always say, luckily she looks like her mom, I always say, so.
Oh, she's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
And she's your only little one?
She's our first, yeah. Hopefully someday I can convince Lindsay for two, but that means a bigger condo, which means a lot more clients.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah.
And I'd love to stay in touch. And if ever there's anything we can do to help in any way, let us know.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of power in bringing this community together and not kind of stay. It's so easy to stay in our bubble, but there's a lot of there's just so many people I want you to meet now, and that I think should meet you, and conversations that I think you could facilitate. And I would love to, honestly, big picture thinking here, I'd love to bring you on to a webinar of mine, which is where I bring prospective clients and clients to come on, and it's like a free session. And we can talk about something that you do really well. And I just think there's so much we can do, especially nowadays, like I said, with this world being so small. You're very busy though, I know, so I will let you go. What's the rest of your day like?
You're busy.
Yeah.
Good busy.
Yeah.
The start of the year is always like we've got, some training programs are ending, new ones are starting, but they haven't quite started yet. And then other people like changing their dates. So yeah, it's a funny time of year, but things will settle down in the next month or so.
Cool. Well, you did a fantastic job today. I'll let you know when this is going to post. Are you on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll add you to Facebook as a friend, and then I'll add you to our podcast group, which is all of our past guests, which again is really interesting. There's great conversation in there and some really good intellectual sharing.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so awesome. I'll be in touch, probably looking at 3 or 4 weeks, and we'll get this out.
Yep. Awesome, Brad. Thank you. Really great to meet you.
Yeah,
and
you
Lindsay
well.
And Lena.
Yeah. Awesome. Have a
and
fantastic.
Say hi. Do you ever see Dave?
You know what? It's so funny. I think he's going to be our new financial advisor, which sounds so weird to say that.
Oh, get out. That's awesome.
Yeah, we got to sit down, Lindsay, him and I, and have a conversation. But I feel like he's someone that can really help us move forward with that. So he's such a great guy. Just like salt of the earth.
Yeah, awesome. Well, if you see him, send him my love. Think the world of him. So
yeah, I will do. Give my best to Sarah off screen and keep kicking the gym.
Yes.
And yeah, thanks again. We'll chat soon. I appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks a lot, Brad.